My name's Pratyaksha and I'm here with Poorva Parashar today. We're going to be talking about the celebrity culture in India and how it's really pervasive. So, a lot of these celebrities and stars, they don't really have personal lives per se anymore because there is a lot of media scrutiny and public scrutiny on them no matter what they're doing. So, over to Poorva to talk a little bit about that.
So I think this whole debate centers around whether making that trade-off is fair or whether it's something that quote unquote comes with the job, right? And I think that's a fairly complicated question, mostly because on the one hand, the celebrities do benefit from this sort of fame and this sort of pervasive intrusion into their lives when it comes to things like their movies or people being convinced by their ad campaigns. So in that sense, the capitalistic side of the industry is sort of satisfied and pretty much runs on this sort of fanatic fame. But on the other hand, is it really fair to call this oppression when one is necessarily feeling that it is crossing a certain line, but benefiting from it when it doesn't necessarily cross that line? What do you think?
That's fair, but look at something like the recent sort of huge wedding that Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma had, and just this idea that, and of course I'm not going to try and figure out what their motivations were at every step, but they released public portfolios of photographs and stuff like that, right? At the same time, you had all these fans running around, quite, trying to get glimpses into things that they weren't sort of publicizing on their own. And and this is not again to place a judgment on, okay, a wedding is a really sacrosanct affair or anything, to each their own, but just the idea that there is this aspect of their lives that they might want to at least reveal to the public at their own discretion, but they don't really get to do that because there is almost this entitlement that all their fans have, wherein they need to know and they need to sort of go ahead and have an opinion. You see that even earlier, right? When Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma started seeing each other, a bunch of Virat Kohli's fans would say, his game's suffering because he has this actress girlfriend now. Things like that. So, all those unwanted intrusions do still very much exist. So, don't you think that somewhere they have the right as celebrities to draw that line and determine that line for themselves?
I feel like that's a very fair need, also in terms of how Virat Kohli is at the end of the day a sportsman, and how there are multiple sportsmen in the country. Like, let's not even talk about the world, but for example, the hockey players of the country, or say the football or basketball players, will never be as famous as the cricket players because of the kind of religious nature that exists around the sport in itself. So I think that sort of ties into the idea that he would not be that popular and he would not be in the position of power that he is had that fame not existed. Had that fame not existed, same for Anushka Sharma, had other professions been more the ones that necessarily drew public attention, maybe she would not have been in the same position either. So I think that ability to have a wedding in Spain with each other is also determined by the fact that they were two very famous people.
Italy.
Oh, so sorry about that.
No, but also see, just the fact that I know that, the fact that I know it was Italy, Tuscany, the fact that I know they had a reception in Delhi, and this, by the way, when I'm not, a huge follower of tabloids or anything, my idea just comes from a place that where, I sure get that, at this point, say someone were to get into a field like acting or cricket, because they see what's already happening in popular media, they assume, or they're at least prepared for the possibility that they'll be scrutinized the same way. My only point is it fair to expect that of them, because one way to look at it is, okay, you sign up to do certain jobs and you're automatically a public figure. But I feel like, their personal selves don't necessarily have or shouldn't be under that obligation to be public figures. They shouldn't, for instance, there was something about an actress recently a while ago smoking a cigarette. She was spotted smoking a cigarette with Ranveer Kapoor, right? Now, that's not, it's not about whether or not you want that habit endorsed publicly. The point is, when she's doing it on her own personal time, is it not okay for her to do that? Does she have to uphold these moral values that she's charged with, Also, like recently, there was this incident with Soha Ali Khan, who decided, I think, on a religious festival for Islamic groups had a religious festival they were celebrating, and she was dressed up in Hindu clothing for some event that she had to go to with her husband. Again, a lot of scrutiny, right? Do you think that is warranted? Placing your judgments onto these celebrities and expecting them to uphold it.
No, I do not think that's warranted to the extent that nobody should be forced to live a certain way or forced to change their ideas and their ideals based on what other people want or based on what the public in general wants, right? However, I think it's very difficult to draw that line. It's very difficult to have a yes or no answer to whether it comes with the job, because at the end of the day, why do so many people watch, say, Salman Khan's movies or Shah Rukh Khan's movies, even if the quality of the movie is not as good as, say, other movies that may be available at the time? It's because they have this huge fan following and because they have this huge sort of cult status, right? But at the end of the day, I think that line needs to be drawn, and drawing it is an important part of being in the industry as well.
Fair enough. I mean, it's sure no one can deny that it's, a lot of fun reading about the things that these celebrities do. At the end of the day, I mean, and I'm not one who thrives on this idea of, oh,
Just to interject here, the idea of Big Boss existing in itself, it's a very Schadenfreude sort of concept, because we're pretty much enjoying the fact that these people are having these extreme
true,
conflicts with each
and
other.
they have this larger than life
Yeah.
life well that they live. I get your point, but I mean, I just feel like I'm intruding a little bit sometimes.
I think it's a grey area. I think some people would not feel intrusive at all, while others would be absolutely unconcerned about what Virat and Anushka are doing.
Fair enough. But I mean, until the Indian media stops taking
True,
these
stop
things to that
sensationalizing
pedestal,
it.
I don't think we're getting anywhere much with this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and please subscribe to these videos.